'tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today I want to talk about Marvel Rivals, a game that I have poured way too many hours into, way more than I ever expected I would, and one of the biggest reasons for that is the character roster is a ton of fun to play around with. It's a blast to choose and pick and decide which your favorite character is. If you don't like it, you can toss it, you can pick from 30 other characters you want to play around with. It's a ton of fun. We have more on the horizon, and with the rollouts that they're doing, they're saying about 2 every 45 days, roughly, which is a lot of characters, but Marvel has a lot of characters to pull from. And that's why in this video, I have 100 characters that could be in Marvel Rivals. Now, I have grouped these together, and you'll see the groupings. You see the timeline down below. The timestamps are there. If you just want to watch one certain group, feel free. I will say what I want it to be: a tank, or DPS, or supports. The actual title will be on the screen. So without further ado, I'm going to get into this because there are so many characters. Let's start off with the MCU mainstays, the ones from the MCU that haven't made it in yet. The ones that I'm surprised are not in this game yet. We'll start off with the main man himself, Nick Fury. I think would make a good support. I think it'd be a good damaging buff. I think, he could output some damage as well. A good leadership kind of ability to where, he works well with other players. Like, you have to team up. You have to have good teammates with him. Otherwise, he's not going to be very good. But I think Nick Fury is a very interesting pick, especially one to start off with. War Machine, he's going to be very tanky. He's going to kind of play like Iron Man, I would suspect. Give him a little bit different weaponry, but definitely give him a shoulder cannon and let him go. Let him tank more hits. A more tanky Iron Man sounds like a nightmare, but maybe don't let him do as much damage because of that, and we have a good case for War Machine there. Falcon, I think, is a good pick as well. He's going to have good deployable, and you can have Red Wing either be a robot like he is in the MCU, or you can have him be an actual Falcon like he is in other media. And either way or you can have both. There's nothing saying you can't have both versions of Red Wing in this game, and they can do different things. Maybe one can heat seek and one can go ahead and scout. And especially having him be able to fly, or maybe only semi-fly would be interesting. Maybe he has somewhat of a shield because of how the wings work. Captain Marvel, she's going to be flying, she's going to be soaring, she's going to be ripping down pulsars from the skies, and it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple with her. A lot of beams coming off of Captain Marvel. Miss Marvel. So how I differentiate Miss Marvel from Mr. Fantastic is giving her more of a support role. I don't love her portrayal of her powers in the MCU, but I think something like that, to where it's like energy-based appendages, could give shield and maybe healing to her teammates versus just being stretchy. But I think if they could find a way to just make the stretchy work, I would be a bigger fan of that. Shuri already is in the game, kinda. She's on a splash screen, so let her be playable, and she is going to be dishing out a lot of healing. And in the MCU, she has dual blasters, not blasters per se, but hand cannons basically. They could put her in the Black Panther suit. I don't think they really should. I think let Black Panther just be T'Challa, and then Shuri could be her own character with her own completely different moveset. M'Baku, kind of rounding off the Wakandan characters there. I would suspect he is big and bulky, much like he is portrayed in every media he shows up in. Whether they want to put him in the gorilla outfit, either way, just giving him a big stick and letting him clonk people with it, I'm all for that. M'Baku is a great character. I'd love to see him in this game. Ant-Man. This is one of the first ones where people might have different ideas. I went with Ant-Man being a tank, and the reason I said that is because Ant-Man and Giant Man are the same character, depending on your version of Ant-Man, but having Ant-Man be able to get bigger and get more shield and more health, and then be able to shrink down and be able to get more speed but less health, I think is a pretty interesting concept, the one that I kind of came up with. to where, let's say, he's small and he can run around and still hit as hard. So if you wanted to, flank, you want to be a flank tank, kind of like how Captain America is. He wanted to dive on the back line, he could do that, and then he could just pop right back up and be full health, full shield, and not have to take as much damage, while also dealing as much, but being a lot slower while doing it. I think that would be pretty cool for Ant-Man. The Wasp is going to be a flyer, obviously. She is also going to be able to shrink. I think being able to shrink away, kind of like how some characters can, where they kind of disappear into the mist as they fly off. Having her be able to shrink down like that would fit into the character well, and also I think having the Pym particles come from her kind of, help the team in some sort of way. Obviously they can bend the rules however they want, but say Pym particles can just heal as well. Having a very quick, very hard to hit target, maybe have her very little health, because if he can be small and fly around, she's hard to hit for a lot of characters unless you have a lock-on kind of beam. But something like that I think could really work. Vision is an interesting character because you could make him any one of these 3 roles and it would absolutely make sense. I went with him being a support. Another support flyer. I went with support specifically because Vision's whole thing, he's there to help the world, he's there to help save the world, rather than defeating his enemies. That's not really his forte. Obviously he could still dish out damage and shoot laser beams like crazy, and maybe even phase through a wall or two, but I think, being able to heal teammates is imperative to Vision. Shang-Chi, he's going to be a damage. How are we going to make him different from Iron Fist that's already in the game? Make sure he can't fly. Give him the power of the 10 rings, which would differentiate him enough, but absolutely let the Kung Fu kind of show through. I think the other thing about him would be that maybe it cuts through shields or something immediately, so even if someone's shielded, it still attacks their HP directly. I think that's interesting. That's a concept I came up with Shang-Chi. Finally, for the MCU class here, I have a Hulkbuster, kind of in quotations. Who are they going to put in this? Well, obviously I have Rhodey in the War Machine outfit, and Tony's already in the game, so I'm thinking we can put Pepper in the Hulkbuster armor. I'm not 100% sure if she's worn the armor before, but I don't really like the rescue suit that much. I don't think it's very useful, especially since it's not designed to attack, so it not being able to in a game where you're supposed to be doing damage seems silly. So, or, they can bend the rules a little bit and make rescue a Hulkbuster type armor instead. I'd be down to clown with that. I think that'd be a fun idea if they wanted to do that. So next up, let's talk about some Defenders, because some of them are in the MCU, some of them are not, but the Defenders, we'll start with the main man, Daredevil. So his ability to see by not seeing, I think, would be awesome in a way where, say, someone like Invisible Woman or Psylocke or Scarlet Witch, Hela, the ones that disappear in whether a mist form or whatever, if he was still able to see them, that is reason enough to be playing Daredevil, in my opinion. I think he should have a swing, kind of like Spider-Man and Venom, and more acrobatic moveset like that. Still be a meleeer. He could have some throwables, but I think him sticking mostly to melee and his acrobatics, I think, would be fun in and of itself. Elektra, being a ninja, she's going to be very quick, very hard to hit. I would suspect her to be playing a little bit like a Psylocke, to where she's much more sneaky. You definitely have to flank. You can't really play DPS right up front with her. And so it may be really tough. She may be a tough character to play well, but I think she'd be interested because of that. And if she can do enough damage with her Psy, then I think she'd be worth it. Power Man is going to be a tank. Of course, Luke Cage can't really have... I know it's a different Iron Fist, but Iron Fist and Luke Cage kind of go hand in hand. And him being able to be up front and just take the hits and dish them right back out. Very simple concept for a character. Luke Cage, he doesn't have a lot of extraordinary, exuberant powers or anything, but I definitely want him in the game, whether Power Man or Luke Cage, because depending on where you look, he's called something different in it. But either way, I want him there. Jewel or Jessica Jones, depending on who's asking, is one that can fly, and I have her down as support because I mean, she doesn't do. She can fight. She can stand up for herself. But the way I'm thinking it is like she heals by telling her teammates that they're not damaged. If that makes any sense. Like, yeah, it's like kind of how you picture Mantis do it, because Mantis is like also a mind calmer, like a mind reader, mind talker, and being able to just tell your teammates like, no, you're not actually hurt, you're fine, keep going. That's how I kind of envisioned Jessica Jones. Plus, it'd be weird to not have her. I think she's part of the 4 now, especially with the Netflix stuff. And now before we get into the MCU, a lot of people know her, so it'd be silly not to include her here. And the Black Knight, the Dane Whitman version, cursed swords and suits of armor, and that's simple enough for me. Clanking around, being slow as all heck, but I think it's just cool enough to have the Black Knight on our roster, and he has played with the Defenders before, and I think that's a really cool way to tie him into this. Obviously, character down the line we'll talk about is also influenced with the Black Knight, but Dane Whitman should stand on his own, and yeah, being the descendant of an evil Black Knight, but this one's for good. And if they want to go back and do the good or the bad one they can, that's more simply a knight in black armor, but cursed swords are too cool to pass up on. Okay, now we'll get into the meat of what some people have been waiting for. We'll talk about the X-Men and the mutants as a whole. Cyclops, of course, is going to start us off here. I think a good leadership ability. I think he needs to have good team-ups with a lot of X-Men. I think that's his big thing. Obviously, having a strong beam that shoots straight out of his face is going to be his main ranged attack, and maybe different versions of that. You see him like crank the visor to do different beam shots. Maybe there's one long beam. But the thing is with Cyclops beam, if you're unaware, it's not like a heat beam or anything. It's like a punch kind of beam. Like the beam hits you and it's like a force versus like a heat. So how are they going to do that? Maybe it's like hit and then it's like repeatedly like clang, 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 clang on somebody. Either way, Cyclops definitely needs to be in it if we're talking X-Men characters. Phoenix right behind him. If they want to do Jean Grey instead of just the Phoenix Force, have at it. But the Phoenix is my favorite version of Jean Grey. So fire and flight and being able to, I think for her, it'd be cool if she had like a resurrection on herself, or if she could give it to a teammate. So it's like a pretty long cooldown, maybe like a 5-minute like cooldown where she could either rise from the dead or give it to somebody else. Iceman. So Iceman is my guy. He's my favorite X-Men. A quick moving support that could freeze and maybe like, you know, numb wounds with his ice powers. You know, ice beams and icicles. You could say he should be a tank too, because he can make an ice wall. This is another guy. He has a lot of potential in a lot of different variations, but I gave him the support because I think it's the most interesting way for them to take him. Professor X, another support. How are they going to make Professor X work? I mean, I guess it's just kind of like you don't see the quote-unquote bullets coming, where he attacks you with his mind. Because, I mean, there are multiple characters in this game that don't need to aim to hit you, and just make another one. And he can communicate. Maybe he can see everybody kind of further away, but maybe not be able to do that much damage. Like, you can't hide behind a wall. He can't hit you, per se, behind a wall, but he knows you're there, so he'd be a good communicative teammate to have. And, like, you know how you can see, like, you're outlining your teammates, but you can't see the enemy? Like that, on the one character, you can see everybody. I think that could work. Gambit. Of course I'm going to have Gambit here. He's going to have his bow staff, he's going to have his cards, and he's going to be straightforward DPS. He's going to be conking people, and he's going to be dealing decks, and exploding cards right in your face, and it's going to be fun. Like, it's going to be a fun character to have. Beast, I want Beast to be a beast. I want him to be big and strong, and be able to have a lot of health, and be able to get in there and take some beatings, but also like tear people up. I really love when Beast is a scientist, and he's super smart all the time anyway, but I want Beast to play like a monster in this game. Rogue is a health sapper. Do damage to you. You have to be close up. Like, come up and, like, maybe, like, grapple in such a way. And, like, as you do damage to them, you heal yourself. Or maybe you can, like, link to somebody else. So, like, you transfer it. So while you do damage, you heal somebody else in the process. Nightcrawler is teleportation expert. He's going to be bouncing all over the map. He's going to be a flank's best friend. Or a healer's worst enemy, depending. He's going to be whooping everywhere. It's going to be very hard to pin down, but playing as him will be very rewarding. Colossus is as straightforward as a tank as you can get. He's a big metal man. He can take a lot of damage, and he can punish people for it. I think a man of metal, and then you have him team up with like Magneto to do something cool, have a special team up with that, plus, they're both mutants, obviously, would be awesome. Archangel, another kind of simpler one, or you could just have him be Angel if you don't want to have him have the metal wings, but a flyer that is a meleeer is kind of cool, because honestly the problem with flyers is that they can go up there and they can just shoot from the sky, but having a flyer that has to kind of swoop down and do damage and then can kind of take off again, maybe he can come down and grab you and like bring you with him, that could work. Dazzler, we're putting her on roller skates, and she can sing and she can dance and she can, scream some light beams into existence, and some of those damage the other team and some of them heal her teammates. And that's Dazzler, and it'd be fun to just have her be performing different songs. And I don't know if they're gonna license music for this game. It might be a bit strange to just have one character be singing licensed music instead of writing one specifically for this one, but having another singer along with Luna Snow, good. That's kind of fun. Quicksilver, I feel like he's not in it because how are you gonna make a character this fast and not have him be like just impossible to hit? I think making him squishier than other characters. I mean, MCU taught us anything. Quicksilver can't take a bullet very well, but yeah, being extremely fast to the point where, like I say, he is just hard to hit. Jubilee, she's going to be obviously dropping fireworks basically on the enemy team, and maybe she can have them be placed down, kind of like a petty mine, but hopefully they'd be more obvious than a petty mine would be. They're like floating explosives that are kind of a minefield in the air too. Shadowcat, or Kitty Pryde, depending on who you ask, was one that's like another one that's tough. Like what she can walk through walls, sure, easy enough. In my mind, she has healing abilities. Days of Future Past, Kitty Pryde did the healing stuff, so that's kind of where, not the healing stuff, but like transferred through time. So that's where my headspace was at putting her here. So maybe it's like, oh yeah, like the bullet travels through you because it fell out, so you're fine now. The lore of why these characters do what they do in this game was silly, but the effects should feel real. Cable, so when thinking of what Cable should do, I came up with this idea that he should be able to mess with time a little bit, but like not too much, because that's crazy. So what I came up with is, say, for his ult, because like playing Cable otherwise is just man, metal arms, big gun, straightforward. For his ult though, I would like it if he could, like, say you're on point and you're capturing point, you can like move forward the progression by 10 or 5 seconds. I don't know the balancing on that, and you like gain more progression on it. Or if you're losing point, you reverse it, and if you're pushing the quote-unquote cart, then you move it forward, however it would go for 5 or 10 seconds, or if you're trying to defend, it would go backwards. Obviously, I think you'd have to kind of hit a target or something by doing that, because just having it click and work immediately would kind of be overpowered, but or maybe not, maybe they could just tweak it to only be a couple seconds, like 2 seconds, so that even though like you can do it without fail, it's not too bad, but it's still helpful. Deadpool, everyone's favorite merc with the mouth, is going to have a bajillion weapons, and I could see him just machine gun, and a pistol, and an Uzi, and a rocket launcher, and then multiple katanas, and just having literally every time one runs out, him just swap to a different weapon. Every time that one runs out, swap to a different weapon. And then you have a joke one in there, like the chimichanga thing has kind of slowed down in recent years, but you know, like you run out, say he has 4 guns that he kind of siphons through, and then like chimichanga grenade to the face, and then restart the cycle. Something like that. So you kind of have to get used to how the guns rotate through. Having it be random would be too crazy, but having it kind of cycle, I think would be interesting. Emma Frost, our Ice Queen, is going to be a tank. And it's pretty cool because she definitely doesn't look like a tank, but her power set, her skill set, her move capabilities, her everything about her screams tank to me. You know, diamond skin, being able to be invulnerable, screams in gameplay a lot of defense, a lot of shielding going up at any given second. She may not look like your given tank, but she's gonna play like one of the best of them. Mystique, I don't know what to do with Mystique. I have her down as a support. What I thought maybe she could do is maybe be able to just fully copy somebody from the other team, but then like what makes Mystique unique is, I don't know, but being able to just automatically say like, okay, I see they have a, I don't know, let's say Doctor Strange, and you have a Doctor Strange on your team, so you take Mystique, and now you have 2 Doctor Stranges to deal with. I think that's the way to go with it. So like, she's not really any one class because of that, but I think maybe having it so that you can just completely copycat another character in their moveset. You know, maybe they have a little bit less health, maybe they don't do as much damage or something like that, so it's not just because combos of the same character would be crazy for some of them. So having her nerfed a little bit, so it's not a perfect one-to-one copy. Juggernaut is another one that just screams tank. I think the cool thing with Juggernaut would be to have him any destructible wall or destructible environment, if he's like fully charged and his charger on, it just immediately gets knocked down. It's not even like a question. It just immediately just plows straight through it. Ursa Major, this is a fun one. One of Russia's only mutants, and just a giant bear, and one that can kind of slash and get at you, kind of like Wolverine does. Maybe not the flying tackles that he does, but just being able to stand there and just take on a ton of damage and just slash back right in your face. That's what I want to see Ursa Major capable of. Firestar, so a character that can fly and use microwaves. Sounds, I mean, silly. Like, what do you do with that? If he heats things up, I would be like, yes, he uses that to like cauterize wounds too, while also being able to, you know, do more of it and hurt our enemies. Another flying support. I just realized I'm making a lot of flying supports, so maybe it's too many, but I kind of like the idea. Speedball, this is a cool tank, because Speedball makes these balls basically of like defense, and he can kind of place them around, and maybe he can like just continuously like place them on himself and give him more and more shields. You know, maybe he walks out with like the bare amount of HP that most characters come out with, but then he can just every 5 seconds or so put another 50 health on it, and then he can just maybe put it on somebody else, or maybe only on himself up to a certain point, because if you can just hide in a corner and just max shield yourself not even max shield yourself, but get to the point where you're untouchable, would be insane. But now risk reward, you know, maybe cooldown, maybe every one you do, like you get one every second, but then the second one takes 2 seconds, and the third one takes 3. Okay, let's go a little weird with it, sort of delve into the Midnight Suns. We'll start with Blade. I think he's the most famous Midnight Sun. He's most people's favorite too. Vampire Hunter, Daywalker, big awesome sword, but very fast with it, and that's your Blade right there. You give him a couple different weaponry, but mostly the blades, mostly a couple throwables, and there's your character. Ghost Rider, I want the Johnny Blaze one. I want him on the Hellbike. I understand that that's a lot to ask for, but I mean, making him a tank, and making him a big target, making him a fast target, a lot of health, but a big hitbox. There you go. Ghost Rider's another one. You could have him be any of them, but him on a bike just flame chain whipping dudes, being the pennant stare. So much cool stuff you can do with Ghost Rider. Werewolf by Night, I think, is a cool one. Yeah, he's a werewolf, so like, what is his powers? The werewolf stuff, and I think him being able to team up with other moon-based characters to get a buff in certain ways, and his ult is kind of him going crazy, big bad wolf style, and being able to shred through enemies would be a ton of fun. Man-Thing, I've always been a fan of Man-Thing. I think just him looking like a monster, but on the inside, I know he's a peaceful beast, but we gotta put out some damage, Man-Thing, and he will put out some damage, but also just be able to be a walking mass of moss that is hard to take out. Nico Minoru is a character I fell in love with playing the Midnight Suns game, and she is like a witch, and she can summon kind of anything. Not exactly, so you can do anything once, basically, and just being able to see her like whip up some crows that come flying at you, and that's her damage shot, but also being able to resurrect somebody once every now and then. Maybe that's her ult, kind of like Adams is. I love Nico. I would love to see her in this game. Elsa Bloodstone is your classic Huntress-esque character. She's going to be a pretty solid sniper. I'm not really sure why Black Widow's a sniper, but Elsa Bloodstone would make a really good sniper. And Agatha Harkness, I have her as another support who, through witchcraft, being able to summon up weird, crazy powers and spells, and someone like Agatha, they could make so much stuff, or they could do something really basic. Like, not throwing shade at them, but like Scarlet Witch, they could have had her do a bajillion things, and she just kind of floats around and shoots a beam at most of the time. So Agatha could be as crazy or as simple as they really want her to be. We're going to jump over to some gods and mythology as a whole. I'll start with Heimdall, the Watcher of the Bifrost. Some of the gods are a bit weird. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with them. Heimdall, though, I know I wanted to have like the Bifrost be a play with it. Obviously, he's known to stand up and be strong too. He can see everything. He's another character that I would like, kind of like Daredevil, to be able to see anyone that would disappear or anything like that, be able to still spot them. But the Bifrost kind of placed down, much like Strange's portal, but kind of harder to see, probably, where you could kind of place it down as a deployable and then place the other half down somewhere else, and then your teammates could work between the two as they see fit for however long they want to have it out. Odin, another one who in the comics is so unbelievably powerful that he could be either one of the three. I have him playing support. I like him having the Odin Force and being able to just heal anybody around him. But I also like the idea of him like popping an apple and being impossible to kill for 10 seconds. Maybe he can toss an apple to a couple of his teammates too, and you're impossible to kill for a couple seconds during his ult. Valkyrie, I like her on a Pegasus. I think that's a good ult. But other than that, just being a quick sword fighter, I think is a lot of fun. Much like Sif, I don't really know how to differentiate the two, other than one gets to ride a Pegasus, one doesn't. One gets to team up with Thor, and one doesn't. Sif, marries Thor in actual mythology, so I kind of really want it in here. Korg, my guy, big rock monster with a big stick for bonking dudes. You could have Meek with him. You could have him carrying Meek. It's kind of a joke. Or Meek could just be there with his ult and come out and help him out, because otherwise how are you going to make him different than the thing, really? But Korg and Meek, good team-up pair there. Beta Ray Bill, I think, would play like how people thought Thor would play before the game came out, to where he's actually fast and he rips through, and you don't have to throw the hammer to move quickly. He's just there and doing damage. He has a Stormbreaker. He can wield Mjolnir, though, however they want to play it. Very similar to Thor, but I think having him be smaller, obviously not a tank, and more of a DPS, and have him be quicker is fun enough on its own. Horus, from Egyptian mythology, we're going to have him have a couple things. He can turn to a bird and fly, and he has the Eye of Horus, which can stun people, and he's got a pretty cool sword. So I think those 3 things are cool enough of a moveset in and of themselves. And Khonshu, I really like if Khonshu was his own character. Me and my friends were kind of joking, like, what if Khonshu was in the game and didn't have a team up with Moon Knight? As funny as that sounds, I would make sense if Khonshu and the team would be called like Khonshu's Hand or whatever. They get a team up, and however they want to have Moon Knight powered up, because Moon Knight's already pretty strong, but maybe Khonshu is able to do more. I like the idea of him being a support because he needs a hand to fight for him. You know, he can heal, he's undying, let his teammates become undying or something like that, resurrect. It's a fun concept to me. So let's tackle some of the stuff that the MCU doesn't seem to want to talk about right now. The Inhumans and the Eternals collectively. I don't have many of each, that's why I grouped them together. Icarus is going to be your bog standard Superman-esque character. Imagine if Superman was in this game. He can fly, he's hard to take down, he can shoot laser beams, he can punch pretty hard. Think of Superman, that's what Icarus would play like. Cersei is kind of a weird character. I like her to be able to heal in certain ways. She's not, in terms of the Inhumans' power, she's definitely not like the most flashy, but she's one of the most famous, and I wanted to have at least 2 in Eternals on this list. Black Bolt, starting off the Inhumans here. Loud voice, does different things in different ways. Obviously, one can be a big kind of like explosion, and one can be a pinpoint one. Different ways like that. I think Blackagon Boltagon, his real name, should be in this game. Lockjaw is a teleporting bulldog, and would it be fun to be fighting a dog? No. But it'd be fun as heck to play as one, and I think having Jeff have a little buddy would be a blast. Because I think we've gotten over like looking at Jeff after he ragdolls and it looking a little like, oh no. So I think we can get over it with Lockjaw as well. Maybe he doesn't even like ride, maybe he just like blips out of existence to avoid that. Crystal is a cool one. I like Crystal quite a bit. She controls the 4 elements. Anytime you hear the 4 elements, the fire, the winds, the waters, and the earth. So I have her as a support season 1 because of her power set, so you can be any of the 3. But I think it's kind of cool to, fire, maybe she can give a damage buff. Earth, she can give a shield buff. Wind, she can give health or speed buff. And then water do the other one. Maybe water can be health. So she's definitely like support, but also those 4 things could attack in different ways, you know. Fire is the most obvious, but like maybe ground could stun people to the ground, and wind could blow them back or them forward, and water could do whatever, they'd freeze them maybe. Medusa is a tank, and I think this one's really fun because it's her hair. Her power is her hair. So like the tank, like she just gets shield because she puts her hair in front of her, and that's cool. Like she can like put her shield in front of her face, and then she can, the rest of her hair could like, she could walk with it, and then she could like punch around her own shield with her hair. It's very interesting aesthetics when it comes to Medusa. So let's tackle some in the realm of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, Drax the Destroyer. I want him as a tank. He could definitely be a DPS if they want to swing that, but I want him as a tank. I want him big. I want him bulky. I want him that if he stands still for a couple seconds, he disappears. That's hilarious. And then he can also up close and he can just stab the crap out of you. Straightforward. I want Drax. I also want Gamora. I want her to be quick. I want her to be athletic. I want her to be acrobatic. I want her to use her sword in fun and flashy ways. Nova, I'm thinking support. I have another flying support on our hands here. Obviously, he can tap into the Nova Core, and so he can do anything the Nova Core can do. Astral project, shoot photon rays, I forget the exact terminology, but beams of different sort, some healing, some damaging. Yondu, saw some jokes online. It's like Yondu's attack should be mic-based, and that'd be hilarious. If all of a sudden you just hear people start whistling, it'd also be terrifying if you find a good Yondu and you see an arrow come flying around you. But definitely an arrow that you can kind of control in some way, however they want to do that. That's Yondu. Howard the Duck. So my idea for Howard the Duck is he gets a giant gun that can shoot once every like 10 seconds, but if it hits you, it hurts. But also he has, you know, weird, not novelty, but like strange like duck-based, like here's an egg and it heals you. Here's an egg-shaped something or other and it gives you like a tank. It gives you shielding. That's Howard's whole thing is he's goofy and weird, and I like him to be goofy and weird in this game, but also have a really big gun that can do some damage when it needs to. Nebula is another tough one because her moveset's kind of basic, but honestly I've been kind of avoiding just using guns for a lot of characters, so her having different blasters, but also have some mechanical powers because of who she is would work in different ways. And Fin Fang Foom. I want a big green dragon that can ult into a gigantic green dragon and step on people. And when he's not giants, he can shoot out, what is it? He has like some kind of acid breath, I think it is, instead of fire breath. But also he can fly. He doesn't need to fly very much. Because you can see him coming. He's a big guy. But a tank that can fly is cool, and one that like that. It sounds like a lot of fun to me. So with Fin Fang Foom, you'll notice I haven't talked about a lot of villains, so I've grouped a lot of the villains here together in one big group of villains. And let's start with one of the biggest names that they have in Thanos. So I want Thanos to have the Infinity Gauntlet. Obviously, power nerf, whatever, I don't care about that. But I want his ults, and me and my friends all agree it'd be really fun if Thanos' ults could be the snap and wipe out 6 players immediately. It's a slower charge than a lot of the ults are. 6 players on their team or yours. It's completely random. You could ace them, you could ace yourself, you could go 3-3, or you could get a smattering of the two. Most likely you're going to kill someone on your own team, but that's the risk you're going to take if you're playing Thanos. Ultron, now, I'll mention here, a lot of characters have been quote-unquote leaked. I don't believe any of them, but Ultron was said to be a support, and I can agree to that. I can also see him be the other two, but him being a support seems pretty cool. Different deployables, dropping different versions, lesser versions of himself. Maybe kind of like Loki does to help shield and maybe do some healing and damage that way could be pretty cool. Doctor Doom. So the first season of this whole game is around Doctor Doom, and he's not playable, he's not fightable. Why not? I assume he will be at some point, but it's Doctor Doom. You know, you make him big, strong metal man, and have him, I want him to be overpowered, but, you know, he can only do so much. But just make him in the game. Like, what is this? Same with Dracula. Now, I would have had to go beyond 100 characters to put Dracula on this list, if not for the fact that he's in the game also, but not anywhere in the game. He's just an idea of the game. I get it's the story behind the game, but like, why make a whole season based on this character that's not interactable at all? I don't get it. But, you know, he's the king of vampires. I have him being a support because I think it'd be cool if he is also, like, he does blood drain. Like, he does damage and brings it back to you, and maybe you could make one of your teammates have the same kind of blood draining ability. Black Cat. So, acrobatic, can climb walls, can dive people if need be. It's going to be up close, it's going to be personal. How on earth would they give the power to, like, give bad luck? I don't know. If they wanted to do that, if they find a way to make that work, that'd be cooler. But, as is, I think just an acrobatic dive that can, like, climb walls, swing around once maybe, but get around quickly enough. Lizard, I want Kirk Connors to be big and strong, and I think a funny thing would be, like, when he gets past half health, maybe he, like, drops his tail, and then he gains speed back, and then when he regrows it after a certain amount, maybe he gets back up to, like, full after, like, 4 or 5 seconds it grows back, and then you get the same kind of speed bump again. Sandman, I think, is a very obvious tank. Him just covering himself in sand, and he can grow big and drop minions of other sand people, and he can basically like, grab people from underneath and hold them stuck for a while, and just huck sand in people's eyes. There's a lot of fun things you can do with Sandman. Rhino is my guy, and I want him to be a charging maniac and have him either put him in the mech suit or just have him the weird skin on Rhino. Either way, I'm totally down with it. Rhino, I've been kind of lucky. Rhino's been in a lot of games and media, some better, some worse. So having him in this game, have different stuff. He's another one kind of like Juggernaut where I don't see them differentiating the two very well, so whoever comes first, the second one's probably not going to show up, but another one that can probably crash through walls pretty well, but also crash through shields as well. I think maybe Rhino's charge at full charge can crash through an entire shield. That could be interesting. An anti-tank tank could work. Electro, obviously, electric powers, flying if he wants to, zapping people. It's pretty straightforward. Thinking like maybe like a chain link kind of thing, where like if you hit an enemy, maybe you can immediately link it to another enemy. That sounds like fun. Could be broken, but it could be fun. Green Goblin is definitely going to be a flyer. He's definitely throwing pumpkin bombs and any other weird nonsense that Green Goblin has up his sleeve. Maybe he has a move where he just drives the glider straight into somebody, and maybe that's his ult. He just hops off, and the glider just like sails straight into somebody. It splits him in half or explodes or whatever. Doc Ock, I want it to be a tank. I want him to have total mobility with 2 arms and then 2 arms to just be able to grab people and thrash them around as much as he wants to. Kraven, I would suspect, would play kind of like how Black Panther is. He's quick and he's mobile, but he has more weaponry than just a spear in his claws. Kraven's typically pretty big, but I like to have him have a ton of different weaponry. And maybe he has extra health, maybe he has extra speed. Either way. Kingpin, he's a tank. I mean, you've seen the guy. He's big and imposing, and nothing seems to hurt him, even though he should just be a human. But he's a big guy. He's a big guy, that Kingpin. Mysterio as a support makes the most sense. I see him playing a lot like Loki. I see him dropping weird illusions and alternates, and maybe he can blind, and maybe he can appear to be somewhere he's not. That could be a ton of fun. I think, yeah, him having a move where literally he looks like he's in front of you, but maybe it's like a mirrored image or something. Silver Samurai, I mean, you have a man in silver armor be able to wield a katana, and he's big and imposing. You know, you also have him maybe have some shurikens or something, but as a tank, you don't want to have him have too many damaging options. But, however, he has multiple ways to attack you if you get up close. But another one that seems pretty simple, but could be a ton of fun. Null, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think Null is way cooler as an entity of darkness and destruction, but he's in the game, and every time I see him, I want to play as him. Him being able to do damage, maybe he can like summon symbiote, and that do like encroaching damage, and maybe like the more you cover somebody in symbiote, the more it crushes them. This Null is so crazy powerful that he could be either one of the 3, much like a lot of the gods are, but that's the best thought I had for him. Sabretooth, I would suspect, would play like Wolverine. I'd like him to be a little bit bigger, a little bit slower, maybe not be able to jump as much, but pretty close to Wolverine, just more tanky and less damagey. Carnage, the same thing like with Sabretooth, but for Venom. Smaller, maybe can swing twice instead of once, maybe can do a little bit more damage, but maybe he doesn't have that thing where he can just pop out half of his health and shields and be able to live way past when he should be able to. Mephisto is another one that's beyond powerful, but, you know, he's like the devil. He can do whatever he wants. I like him using the rest of his teammates as minions and buffing them and healing them and making them stronger and do his work for him would make more sense. I imagine him like not even really moving too much, like where like he sits on his throne and like commands from far away. Wonder Man starts as a villain. I see him more as a villain. Another one that could just be Superman, but a villainous kind of flying tank that heals. He could be a tank, he could be support, but he can heal. So I think that's more aligned the way I want to go with him. Blackheart's another one, easy team up with Mephisto, but Blackheart can do a lot. Another one with support. This one, another one he can go any way he really wants to, but being able to impede the enemies more than damage them, and then maybe when you impede them, you buff your teammates, stuff like that could really work. Atum, I'm gonna be honest, he's here because I want Namor to have a little bit of a rivalry with somebody, and Atum, he's pretty simple. Honestly, his moveset's very simple. You could switch it up so that he has some more aquatic-based things, but as it stands, he's pretty straightforward. He's a tank. He can stand there and he has a weapon, but maybe he can like swim, kind of like Jeff does, or maybe he could summon other aquatic beasts like Namor does. There's things you can do with him. And this last section are characters where I couldn't really fit them in anywhere else. They didn't seem to fit anywhere else, but you'll see what I mean when we get into it. Bradley Braddock is a character that I like in different versions, and I couldn't pick a version, so I'm going to pick both versions. Captain Avalon is going to be the tank variant, another very classic sword and shield-esque character, but honestly, I think a knight aesthetic is pretty fun and pretty cool in a game like this. But also Captain Britain. Now, I want him to be Captain Britain like he is in the LEGO games, where he flies and a Union Jack is behind him, and he punches and a Union Jack shows up, and it's a very goofy and over-the-top-esque character. Like, that's what I want to see in that. Kid Colt's cowboy. He's packing a 6-shooter and he's whipping through them, and it's high noon, and if they want to really overtake Overwatch and just, I don't want to say steal, but really copy one of the characters' movesets from over there, then Kid Colt could be your ticket to that. Red Wolf, this is another one where the mantle has been taken over by multiple ones. I'm going to go with the Johnny Wakely version, because that's the one where I was introduced to the character. Honestly, you could have him have different powers. I know that he's gifted powers from the Cheyenne gods, but one of them has like a wolf companion, I think. And obviously, like, he has different weaponry, tomahawks and bows and arrows and stuff like that. So a lot of tools that he could be using. Herbie, I thought when they announced Fantastic Four that Herbie was coming with. He is on the stage, but he isn't in the playable fence. But I'd like him to be playable, and he could, put fun little robotic things down for his friends to pick up and do some healing with. Stingray, this is another aquatic-based one that I really like the look of the guy. I think he'd be a fun glider. He might have a little bit more health than a lot of supports do, but maybe not be able to heal a lot. I think him being an armor-focused one where he gives armor to a lot of his teammates versus healing them directly could be fun. Hitmonkey, this one's pretty straightforward. He's a macaque with 2 guns, and he's small, and he's gonna shoot a lot. That's, what more do you want, really? What more could you want? Songbird is going to be another one that screams a lot, but this one mostly in flight. Her being able to make solid items out of sound is pretty awesome. So maybe she can use that to fight in somehow, some way, instead of just blasting people like Black Bolt will. Either way, I think there's a lot of cool things. Just being able to fly, I think, is differentiation. And Black Bolt can fly too. So maybe one can fly and one can't. That's how you mix the two up. Devil Dinosaur. So for me, I really want to talk about Devil Dinosaur. Is he viable? Probably not. He is way too big. Unless they shrink the guy, then have him be only him as a playable character. That could really work. Give him a lot of health and with a huge hitbox, and that could work. Or if they want to have him be the attacking of Moon Boy or Moon Girl, if they want to have it be, Moon Boy lives on the same planet, Moon Girl brings him from said planet to this planet, and with how this game's story kind of works, it'd probably be Moon Girl over Moon Boy. Either way, Devil Dinosaur is Devil Dinosaur, and he attacks like a T-Rex would, and that sounds like a blast to me. Silver Surfer is one that, the Power Cosmic is kind of can do whatever it wants to do. I can see the Silver Surfer just, again, another flying healer. It's a common thread with me. But just up there surfing around and giving blessings upon their teammates, and maybe because of being the Herald of Galactus, maybe they can spot and they can like point out like this guy's there, this guy's here. Kind of like how the ping system works, but you get a little outline instead of just a little drop arrow. Could be interesting. And our last character is Baymax. Now, Baymax is, of course, more famous from the movie than he is from the comics, which arguably is true about a lot of characters. Baymax gets it the biggest buff, though. I think a lovable healing robot. Him and Herbie get a nice team up. The robotic... I don't know. I was trying to think of a cool iteration, but I couldn't think of anything like there. But yeah, Baymax is there to help. He's there to heal. He's got a lot of health of his own, and he can heal his teammates, and he's just there. He's just there to help. Maybe he can't even do damage. Maybe he's like what these Rocket players want and not do damage. Maybe Baymax cannot do any damage, but he can heal like crazy. That's our 100th character. That's 100 characters for Marvel Rivals. What ones did I miss that you really want? I know that there are some that I did not include. Some that personally I just didn't really want. Some that I couldn't really think of anything fun to do. Some I looked at more than 100 characters when making this list. So I can guarantee that some of you are upset that I didn't include your favorites. Let me know who they are, why you want them, what they do, what their class is. The video is just for fun. Don't take the groupings too much in consideration for, like, if you're like, why are they not included in the Guardians? Or why? It's just for fun, like I said. But this video was a blast to put together. Like, just being able to talk about a bunch of Marvel characters would be a ton of fun. Obviously, if DC ever does a game like this, I could very easily do the same thing for them too. But yeah, like I was saying, what characters do you want? What one from my 100 would you really want in the game next? Let me know down below. Thank you so very much for watching, and as always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at some point.